Thanks very much. Thanks to you all for coming. Good morning. I would like to deeply thank those who have joined this panel today. Geraldine Stegemann, Director for Bayer's Commercial Strategy. Franco Martinez Levi, co-founder and CEO of Puna Bio. Maximo Hang, strategy leader and value chain leader. I'm translating on the spot from Dreyfus for Latin America, South Latin America and West Latin America, and Marcos Laffaye, co-founder and operations director at Circular. Thanks very much for joining us. We wanted to tell you that based on our work as consultants, we have witnessed a situation where companies have, to a greater or lesser extent, engaged in different transformation processes where we observe a great effort being made to try and understand new consumption habits, the importance of understanding new end consumers, being in line with technology changes, and against this backdrop, sometimes individual efforts undertaken by a given company are not enough. Oftentimes, in order to realize objectives and ensure that the business will remain viable, we need to go one step further. In this regard, we understand that collective group action is required, and that is why we are here. This group effort must be coordinated and carried out by different players along the chain, incorporating new forms of agriculture, for example, understanding or better understanding how we ensure traceability for the product from the field to the table, new logistics, and engaging in digital transformation. All this is to a great extent what we need to do as a chain. It is not easy. It takes time. But we also believe that large companies have a role to play in promoting these joint activities, coordination, and new companies should contribute a new approach, a new look, an agnostic look that will contribute to that transformation. These group activities will surely contribute to efforts not being wasted along the way and missing investments that are being made in this field. That is why we thought of this panel. Later today at 5, we will be presenting a study conducted by our consulting firm in relation to this. But now we will focus on this panel, on this topic. And let's start with some questions in order to understand what the companies represented here today are doing and how they are facing these challenges. Geraldine, thanks for joining in. So, as I said, thanks for joining us today. And I wanted to ask you, how can we face the challenges posed by new consumers, consumers that are more worried about the environment, about health, and how can we take this as input to think of a new agriculture? Thanks very much for the invitation and for allowing me to be part of this panel, and good morning to you all. Bayer is a science company engaging in health and agriculture, two fundamental pillars when we look at people and understand what people care means, thinking of agriculture specifically and looking ahead. FAO projections indicate that by 2050 there will be 2.2 billion people more in the world to be fed. So we have to increase food production by 50%. That's a big, the first huge challenge facing us. But also there are consumers who want to know how foodstuffs are produced. And for that, we need not only to produce more, but to see how we are producing those foodstuffs. As a sector, this questions us and demands that we change the agricultural systems used at present to produce more per hectare sown, but also do so consciously caring for the environment, ensuring traceability, and telling society what we do. That's a big challenge, and this is our vision at Bayer, the one that we are promoting to scale up regenerative agriculture to all farmers throughout the world. And we speak of regenerative agriculture, a buzzword. Recently, we speak of something specific. Each hectare sown should increase productivity, but that increase in productivity should go hand in hand with improved agricultural practices that will care for and protect the environment we work at. So soil conservation, protecting biodiversity, play a fundamental role, caring for water and use of resources throughout the process is also fundamental. And that's our vision within Bayer. And this is translated into specific concrete proposals being put forward to farmers. Today, we have the Bayer members that are farmers throughout the country with whom we have been working together on this concept of regenerative agriculture. And we translate these into concrete practices, no-till, crop rotation, maintaining a green field with cover crops, and how this increases productivity and brings about benefits, and how to make a more efficient use of input throughout the process. All these practices will lead to transforming the agricultural system. The reality is that today, when we think forward, Argentina is uniquely positioned in the world. Think that today over 90% of the sown area in Argentina involves no-till. So this is a different starting point. This is less than 20% compared to the global average. Argentina has the possibility today to meet this global demand that we are witnessing in the global market. Transformation, farmers' transformation and adoption by farmers of these new practices of the essence and digitization. Can we do something to have farmers with more digitized processes? Digitization is part of this transformation concept. When we thought of innovation, even companies, when we speak or think of innovation, we thought we launched a product that may have been disruptive in the past, and that disruptive would increase productivity, and that was innovation, and that was it. But today we understand that innovation has to do not only with having products that will generate more productivity, but by transforming the system. And when we speak of the system, we speak of products, processes, agricultural practices, management, how we do things. All this is of the essence, and digital tools are starting to play a far more important role, because I need to better understand and know each plot, every detail about my field, to make decisions at the right time, in the right manner, and this will be part of this transformation. So I believe today we have a challenge ahead, since there are lots of digital tools available. There are new digital tools at hand, and hand in hand comes a high level of complexity. We face challenges at an agricultural level, but also when it comes to handling so many tools. So as a company, this transfer of knowledge accompanying farmers in the field will be part of this transformation process that we need to go through. Now, going back to this thing about group activities or collective activities and then need to become integrated along the chain. What can you tell me about actions that you're undertaking together with other players? Well, I can think of, to give you a specific example of how digitization is transforming things and how this expands further into the chain. You have heard that surely that we are speaking of integrated decarb, not just the decarb seed, but an integrated decarb system. This means that I accompany my farmer, all farmers actually, we work with, plot by plot, understanding what the best recommendation is for them, trying to understand the different environments, analyzing harvest, and all that is done based on digital tools. So that's the underlying concept. This is clearly, this is something that Bayer can do alone with the farmer? No, because it's not just a matter of improving productivity, but as I said, it has to do with how we do things. And let me give you another example, which has to do with the program we have been developing. The Pro Carbon program was launched 3 years ago. We started working with 160 farmers throughout the country. And this has to do with little by little understanding how these agricultural systems were transformed, how we measured, we performed traceability, and measured the impact of these changes and recommendations. And along this process, we partnered with Viterra because we have a shared vision, that is understanding that Argentina has a competitive edge today, and we have a huge opportunity out there in the domestic market for us to seize, but we need to measure it. So this vision of proving how soybean is sown here in Argentina, that's why we had a program, Levis program, measuring and certifying deforestation and ensuring end-to-end traceability as regards soybean sowing, so that this can be shown to international markets. Along this process that was undertaken last year, we started with 1 million hectares, 300 farmers joined the program. We started to understand that we also need not only, Bayer and the other, but we needed to expand this concept further. Then Galicia Bank joined in, and other companies offering financial benefits to farmers that were part of the program. As regards obstacles and opportunities, what may look like an obstacle or hurdle today, some specific questions that farmers ask. Does this bring about a financial benefit for me? Well, here data play a key role. Using data to prove the economic benefit for farmers and using data at the same time to show how we do things, and that there will be a differential edge for farmers, and our positioning in international markets is very important. Very well then, Franco. Tell us what was the start of Puna Bio, how the company started in a context where innovation and investments required are a bit more complex and make it difficult to start new companies.
Thank you for having me. Puna Bio produces biological inputs for agriculture. We work with different microorganisms that are isolated from the Puna in Argentina and that are eventually transformed so as to be used in different fields or environments, specifically for soybean, bean, cotton, wheat, and barley. Puna Bio was created as a partnership between science and business. In science, the trick is that even though the company is 5 years old, science had been developing for 20 years. My 3 partners and co-founders are scientists from CONICET who have studied these extreme ecosystems during 25 years. And that was the basis for foundation for our technology. 5 years ago, I joined the group. I had created another company, and I had worked in consulting. And we decided to transform science into products. Now they are products. At the time, they were almost prototypes, developments, things we thought might have an application in the future. Going back to investments, we are a company funded by venture capital. We went through different stages that are usually related to the stage you are at. Initially, our investors were from Argentina only, and what we wanted to fund was that first test, the first products. 3 years ago, we traveled to the U.S., close to Silicon Valley, where one of the main biotechnology accelerators invited us to spend 8 months in a lab and talk to all investors in the region. We did that. We made progress. In the meantime, we carried out field tests. We developed technology. And once that process was over, we closed our first investment round. We brought that into our country to expand our lab, which is located in the province of Tucumán, our team, and we started with our commercial development. This happened 3 years ago. Luckily, our products have had a very good performance in the field. We have escalated the number of hectares who are working at 8 times. So their technologies have been used increasingly. And at the beginning of this year, we had our last investment round led by Corteva Catalyst. The second closing included the participation of the Gates Foundation. So this is our story, from innovation to funding. I have 2 questions. From the point of view of farmers, which are the challenges to accelerate adoption of these new products? And what is the message you can share with those who would like to be entrepreneurs in this industry? I think it's interesting to share your message too. In terms of adoption, part of the challenge comes from us, not from farmers. Farmers already face lots of challenges, macroeconomic challenges, economic profitability challenges. So our goal is to provide solutions to those challenges. In terms of adoption, there are several things. First of all, knowledge. We're only now starting to be very known in the sector. 3 years ago, when we started, people didn't know our company. Now we have worked on 3 or 4 seasons, so we're known by more people. Secondly, tests. We have to be able to clearly communicate the attributes and benefits of our products so that farmers feel curious enough to run a first test. And we always need follow-up to show results. And then, obviously, the product has to be simple, easy to use, meet its promises, and provide a good return on investment. I think we have all these characteristics, but people sometimes say, hey, adoption has been great, 8 times in only 2 years. I think we provide good ROI. Product experience is very good, and that makes things easier, but we're only starting. There are 17 million soybean hectares in Argentina. We're growing, but generating that critical mass takes time. We think our products can be massively used, but that takes time. In terms of pieces of advice or sharing my experience, my background was not in the agricultural field or microbiology. Now I'm in both sectors. For a former consultant, I've had 5 years to learn. In the past, I would focus on a project for 2 months or 3 months. Now I've been working on this for 5 months. I think I've learned a lot on both sides. I'm not an expert, but I think the main message is We started with a lab during the pandemic in the province of Tucumán with no resources, and today we are already in the news. There's a lot of work, very hard work behind this. Argentina can offer a lot in science, in agriculture, and in the agricultural sector, we have a market that is big enough to show the initial adoption. This will be impossible in the United States. We are talking of 2 seasons, about 400,000 hectares, and this would not be possible in the United States. So, considering the difficulties we have in Argentina, but also the good things we have, the message is that there is a huge potential to use science and transform science into products and solutions. Thank you very much. Maximo, Marcos, there is a topic that is concerning in Argentina, and it's related to the logistics chain, to the supply chain. Maximo, I'd like to ask you to talk about these topics. We've been talking about thinking of consumers, destination market, and we also mentioned the term traceability. I'd like to know what you think about the importance of this topic. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I think you have already talked a lot about this challenge, which is a result of something we haven't seen for a long time, which is changes in demand trends. Consumers really care about the way in which what they are consuming has been produced. So these are consumer demands that drive the challenge of traceability, because consumers want to know what has been happening throughout the chain. And this is why we have to prove that there is sustainable production, that carbon emissions are minimized. So as Geraldine said, I think in Argentina we have made lots of progress. We started with this some years ago at LDC with sustainability and traceability initiatives, just like our colleagues are doing. And today, if you think of the demands that are coming up, at the beginning of next year, Europe will implement new restrictions with EUDR certification. And not only LDC, that is very well positioned to meet the certification, but together with other players, together with Aapresid, together with farmers, we're all working together to be well positioned so that at the beginning of next year, when this certification is required, we will be up to the challenge and able to sell our products. Sustainability and traceability will no longer be an option. It's not something that you will do if you want to. Very frequently you think of the rewards, but looking forward, this will be a necessary condition to be able to sell. If next year you want to sell something to Europe, you will have to prove traceability. You will have to prove that you are producing sustainably. So this is no longer an option. This is where we're heading. And as a country and as a sector, I think we are very well positioned to meet this challenge. Now, if we go to logistics specifically, what projects do you think are necessary to keep promoting competitiveness? Well, the logistics chain from producers or farmers to the world is quite complex. I can divide it into two, from the ports, inward or outward. If you think from the port outward, at the beginning of the 90s, with the ports law, the private sector started to invest in the creation of several very modern and efficient ports. In the Rosario area, there are several ports, several players, which ensures competitiveness. And today we are an example in the region. If you compare waiting times of ships at the port in Rosario, they stay there less than 5 days. If you go to the best port in Brazil, in Santos, it's over 10 days. In Paranaguá, maybe 15 days or even a month. So I think we're doing very well in terms of ports. As a country, we have the waterways, which is like an avenue getting to the center of our productive area. We're lucky to have this. Today, our drought is 34 feet, and as a result of that, we cannot have ships as big as the Panama. So sometimes we have to go to the south, Bahía Blanca or Necochea. So this initiative to take drought to 40 feet will help us have Panamax ships in Rosario and consequently save a lot in logistics. And this is translated into the whole chain and will lead to better prices for farmers who are working with the other players, with the Port Association, with the Argentine Industrial Association, to use the government so that they call for bids for the waterways to become deeper. Now, taking a look at what happens from the port inwards, usually we get goods transported by trucks. This is because most of the production is close to the ports, so trucks are more efficient than other transportation modes. But there are trucks, trains for more remote areas, and river transportation. In terms of trucks, there are two parts which are important. The first one is infrastructure. We need a better infrastructure to reach the ports. That's one of the bottlenecks today. We need works that will make it possible to facilitate transportation to the ports, and that will make it easier to reach the ports. And we're also working with other colleagues in the sector and companies such as Secular, together with the Transportation Secretariat. We're working to facilitate things for trucks arrivals into the port so that there will not be any bottlenecks, and rotation will be more efficient, even for truck drivers, so that they will be able to rotate and not have to wait for unloading. In terms of trains, I think trains are key for the development of more remote areas. Today, there is an initiative to privatize Belgrano Cargas train company in the north. That railway is being underused. They could transport twice or 3 times as much. So together with other colleagues in the sector, we're analyzing the possibility of participating in these operations so as to make transportation more efficient and promote the development of further away areas. And regarding rivers, well, today for domestic transportation, because of the high cost of river transportation, and because we're working with Argentine flagships, the supply has been going down, and we have ships from other countries, Paraguay, Bolivia, Brazil. So I think one of the initiatives of the current administration to make this more flexible and then allow Argentine companies to use ships with foreign flags for Argentine transportation would help a lot. In this way, we would promote internal transportation. And I think that's a very good initiative for the sector. So at the ports, on trays, and the river, all initiatives imply several players. So we are seeing this collective work, joint work in several aspects, in several parts of the chain, and we think this is necessary. You cannot survive on your own. Maximo, very briefly to close, based on your international experience, Maximo is back to Argentina. He's been working in several countries in the region and in other continents. Based on your international experience, is there anything you have seen somewhere else that we may take advantage of? Well, examples of joint work, there are several in several places. I have arrived here from Brazil, where I've worked for several years in Brazil, together with other colleagues, Cargill, Bungie. We get together to solve some problems we had regarding transportation during harvesting time. And we created a company that provides services to all of us. We acknowledged that logistics is something we all need, so there's no use in arguing about logistics. So we did something that will be of benefit for all of us. I was thinking of joint work and the fact that we are all working and heading the same way, leaving our interests aside and thinking of the common good as a way to reach what we want to reach. Thank you. Marcos, you are the last one, but can you please tell us a little bit about Circular, what they do? Thank you for inviting me. Maximo has already said the context. Logistics in the agricultural sector is complex. There are several different animals, so to speak. It's a chain that involves different stages, and Circular was created to develop a digital platform to integrate all players in the agricultural logistics chain, focusing on ground transportation. Circular is focused on grain transportation by trucks. And based on this integration through technology, we want logistics to be more efficient. That's Circular's goal. By developing services for the different players, the goal being to be more dynamic, efficient, shortening times, and reducing costs. Specifically, I can give you some examples. Maximo mentioned some of them already. When we started in 2019, we started with our first service, which was organizing arrival of trucks to the ports. At the time, we already have the stop system with quota, but the average waiting time was 10 to 12 hours from the time it arrived to the port until it left the port. This triggered the need to implement a time window system, and that reduced waiting time by 3 to 4 hours. Now, when we started analyzing all needs more in detail, we realized that in order to provide more services, we had to integrate all players in the chain, not only ports and transportation, but also storage centers, drivers, and farmers eventually. We started to develop an increasing number of services, and we started to integrate all players into the platform. Today, we provide services in Argentina, Paraguay, and last year we expanded to Uruguay. And what are the challenges, the adoption challenges you're seeing looking forward for farmers, for companies? Everything regarding these technological platforms will be key in different parts of the chain to achieve traceability, better measurement, to have good indicators. What can you tell us in terms of opportunities and challenges into the future?
Well, along this process, we encountered many challenges. First, we are speaking of an industry where all digitization processes took longer than initially planned because agriculture is an industry where processes are highly embedded. They have been carried out for many years in the same fashion, so changing the mindset and ensuring that the different players will incorporate new technologies through computers or mobile phones, and ensuring these changes will be maintained throughout time, that was a big challenge. Also was a challenge doing away with certain rules that were incorporated at a given point in time. There were situations where a transport company felt threatened by technology because they thought technology will replace their day-to-day operations and reduce their business, whereas what we want through technology is for a transport company to be more efficient in its day-to-day operations, to manage a larger number of trucks, and this may bear an impact in providing a better service to companies like Dreyfus or Cargill. So these challenges are present. Now they are also present when incorporating farmers. We also want farmers to be a part of this process. Everything starts with the farmer, and farmers should request trucks, follow up on the cargo, know when it reaches the port, what is cargo quality, and as a result, farmers no longer make hundreds of phone calls and get used to seeing that information on an app, which is available today, and this may be integrated with others in future, for sure. In closing, I would like to ask you in 30 seconds, I'm watching the clock, to share some final comments on challenges and opportunities to accelerate transformation along the chain. Well, I may start replicating what Maximo has just noted. There is a big challenge, but also an opportunity. Having the vision of looking at the industry, but not paying attention only to the benefits that each party may obtain, but bringing together efforts and visions that may help us develop value added, that may improve industry productivity as a whole. One thing is what Maximo mentioned. We are in the process of doing it at a country level rather than being just something individual, that it be a process that all participants in the industry have to implement. Yet other options are using digitization at a massive level, for example, for hiring and following up on transport. There is a lot to grow. There's yet a lot of market penetration to be achieved. So reaching that standard from circular, we believe, would bear a significant impact in terms of truck availability, renting them and making truck use more efficient. To give you an idea, today a truck is used by 40% of, 60% of the mileage traveled by trucks are traveled without any cargo. The trucks are empty. This is a cost that is translated to the whole chain. I will speak in 30 seconds. The challenge when working with different sectors and people and multiple interests and viewpoints, we culturally want to be coaches, and we believe we know we have the solution at hand. And then there are other 10 people who believe they have the solution. So as the saying goes, perfection is enemy to what is good. So you do what you think is best, and you get stuck in endless discussions that bring you nowhere. And that is where you need to be sufficiently open-minded to say, okay, let's go for what is possible, for what is feasible, for what we can do, and ensure that at least we realize our objectives. Well, I think you did speak in 30 seconds. I believe in terms of opportunities, this has been mentioned several times already. Cooperation amongst companies is of the essence. Since I have mentioned Cortiva, let me say that during the first quarter next year, we'll be opening a lab operation with Bayer in the USA. Since I shared the panel with a Bayer member, I had to say it. That is an example, but many companies, and especially on our part, thinking of a startup or a company that is just starting, of course, we need cooperation in order to speed up growth. But I also believe that in the case of larger companies, they have different assets, and if combined, the results obtained may be better than today's. It is difficult because in any large company there are lots of processes and procedures, permits, authorizations that need to be in place in order for this to be a reality. But there's a huge opportunity in combining these assets that each company has into examples that have already been shared in order to speed up the implementation of solutions for farmers. Well, in closing, two things that I find fundamental. Cooperation is, of course, very important. This unique effort approach is no longer feasible. I may be an expert, but I cannot do it alone. If I come together with a startup or someone who is working along the same lines, we can do far better. Also important is the moment we are in as a country. We have everything given. If we think, for example, of future demand, Argentina is better prepared than other countries in the world. Technology will play an essential role there, for data can be transformed into value and to prove the value generated for farmers and to show the world the value of what we produce in Argentina and how we produce. This is an opportunity we need to tap, and we need to speed up adoption of new technologies. Also important, and which should not be underscored, is the current scenario we are living in the country. Today, the country is changing. I hope we may continue on this same track, that is with enhanced future foreseeability, better macroeconomic figures that will allow us to concentrate on what we can do best and which is what we know how to do, and let farmers make agricultural decisions. Most of the time in past years, we try to understand what financial decisions we had to make. Today, we can concentrate again on understanding how to produce more and better. And technology adoption accompanying companies will be of the essence, I believe. Simply, I would like to thank you all and all the people who have been listening to us so attentively. My take-home message is joint activities, collaborative effort. I believe it is essential that we work along these lines, and our role as consultants is to help companies, put them in contact, help them liaise, develop bridges among them, narrow gaps, and that is why we are here today. I invite you all to the talk by Luciana Pagani at the Rizobacter room. She will be presenting a report along these same lines after interviewing over 50 CEOs and executives throughout the chain. I truly recommend that you attend that talk because it will be very interesting. Thanks very much.